which is about communication, because for me, textile is a form of communication, and certainly young people, and I have 2 teenagers in my home right now, and everything they put on is a projection of their identity. And I think we all do that. But textile in general, the kind of things that Carol is mentioning, is a form of communication. Textile and I was wondering if the artists were interested in message or what they want their viewers to take away after viewing the work. So you don't have to have a positive answer to that question if you're not interested in message, but what do you want the viewer to take away from your work? And maybe we could start with Victoria, because in your artist statement you talk about the critique of fashion, so I thought maybe you'd want to share that a little bit more in what you're expressing in your work.
In the long version of the artist statement I made, I was thinking about kind of going through the history of textiles, and especially in the world, and then especially here in the United States. And as you know, when we became industrialized and wanting to make a powerful economy in the United States, we brought slaves over here. And our textile history starts with these slaves that we used for free to pick cotton and to work in these factories and create these textiles of clothes for us. And my criticism that today we have little children working in sweatshops and places that we don't even know about. I know in India, there's people that sleep underneath their sewing machine because they can't afford to live in an apartment, and they're sewing. They're in these callejones, like these alleys, and of men and women living underneath their sewing machine on shifts because somebody else is using it to create clothes that we wear. I mean, how in the world can you go to Walmart and buy something for $5? It doesn't make sense, So what I also found out was interesting that if the only thing that is manufactured here in the United States is knit cotton, like American Apparel, like that, all the process of that is actually created here in the United States. Anything else that's like a linen or cotton, that comes from some other place. So I guess in my actual print it was about recycling. That was the message, and I made it very simple, like something not very complicated. You could look at it, and if it inspires you as an image that it reminds you about this recycling bag, then that's good. It's really difficult for me not to have a message in everything I do because I have a lot of passion for different things that are happening in the world. So I try to be very on the down low with this print and not up in your face like I tend to do. And to me, this whole atelier is probably the most beautiful thing I've been a part of, because it's my stuff is about people being persecuted, murdered, and horrible things that happen in the world. That's usually the type of art that I do. So for me, even though there's a little message, it's kind of subdued, and I think all the prints work together in that way, creating something that's really beautiful, but it is talking about these different histories and how humanity has worked so hard to get to where we are today. And I also read that in the future, we're going to wear clothes that are going to be monitoring our hearts, that are going to keep us warm, that are going to keep us cool, and tell us when we need to eat, or when our vitals are dropping, or they're too high, or sugar's too high, which is really exciting. But then the dark side, because I always have to look at the dark side, is that there's a gold rush to have ownership of all these things, of registering fibers and registering cloth and owning Monsanto and these big companies wanting to own everything that we use to create what used to be free to everybody, or should be free and organic for everybody. So there's a big movement of people trying to keep that from happening, or keeping it in control. And we need to know when things are created that are synthetic and they're not organic. I mean, especially if we're eating them. So, okay, I'm on a rant. Next person.
For me, I would like the viewer to come up with their own meaning behind my art. But if anything, it represents what I want to do in my life. It's me trying to make art that is fun and sacred. Thank you.
My piece is really about balance. The top part of the tier are ancient symbols that are used for our higher consciousness. And then below that is basically what's happening in our modern time now. So there's fruits that are being, with syringes in them, signifying genetically modified organisms. There's talking about water, climate change, the use of petroleum and how it's devastating our environment. The use of violence, which is the deforestation, AK-47s, drones that are being used now to kill people at random. We become collateral damage in this world where violence has become a big business. And then the symbols with Nike and McDonald's represent a different kind of symbol, but how we're very, in a consumeristic world, our youth are eating a lot of processed food. We're not eating natural anymore. A lot of things are being processed. And so, for me, it's about finding the balance. And then the jaguar really represents us being spiritual warriors, being warriors here that are helping to make a difference in our world. Because what we do affects the greater whole of our environment and people. And then other symbols like butterfly for being the metamorphosizing to who we are meant to be in this world. Knowledge, bikes as an alternative fuel, and for me it's really about freedom. When I'm on my bike I just feel completely free. So that for me represented freedom. And then music being the heartbeat. Without music, for me at least, I'd be bored in life. Music is part of our culture, and music has changed in communities and cultures, and ancient music has been revitalized and changed, where you're having these kind of fusion of music forms. And the bottom tier is really that grounding to the earth. So the top tier is about our higher consciousness, and then the bottom tier is about grounding and what we do, each step that we take and each thing that we do to make this world, I think, a better place for all of us. Because for future generations, if we don't change our ways, and I think also have a very connected, I would say like a spirit where we can meditate and make a difference in this world to bring peace and love. So the jaguar has the communication symbols, and below what he's saying is in Farsi and Arabic. In Farsi it is peace, and Arabic is love. So and I pulled a lot from my culture. My family, like I said, is Mayan, Salvadorian, Central American, but I also was raised with my stepfather, who is Armenian and Arab, and so that has been very much a part of my culture. So I was trying to find a way that I could combine these symbols that we use throughout our cultures. And lettering is a symbol. We put meaning to those things, and for me, I think Arabic and Farsi is very artistic. It has this curve and flow, and that's how life is. It's very cyclical and it flows, and that's the way we should be. So for me, this piece was intense because I was sharing with my grandmother was very ill, and my uncle passed away. So I was able to really channel my obsessiveness with all these lines, because each one of those were hand drawn, and so I just put all that emotion into this piece.
And Dalila, can you remind us the title of the work?
It's called Balam Wipi Remix, so much I forget.
Yeah, and just for the audience, can you share about the book of Balam? What is that?
Well, it's a book that came out of the Yucatan. It's called Shilam Balam, and it's a book where it talks about, it uses riddles, it uses medical text, so it's kind of this holistic text that is shared in the Yucatan language. It was written in Latin though, so it has, I think, influence from the Spaniards. But for me, it's these creation stories and these texts that we use as lessons. And so that was why I chose Balam as part of my title.
And Carol, your title is in Sanskrit, yes? Comes from Sanskrit?
Yes.
Can you share more about that source for your work?
Well, it's actually a title of a jazz album a saga is a story that goes from beginning, middle, and end. So-and-so begets so-and-so begets so-and-so begets so-and-so. My father was Jewish, and he was a historian on top of it. And then, I've been a meditator for years, and by doing textiles, and being very influenced by nature as well as politics, as well as spirituality and psychology and all these kinds of things. It seems like we repeat patterns. There's larger patterns than just our patterns, and we all fit in with those patterns. And the universe is always moving, nothing is staying still. So the idea of a raga as being the music that rises and falls and rises and falls and seems to continue on is kind of where the title of that came from. And it's basically, I guess my message was I want sort of people to see it and see a sense of the earth and our own fragility and power at the same time, and the transitory nature of life. So I think that's what's going with that.
Thank you, Carol. And I'm wondering if, Patricia, you can add your comments about what you think about message and viewers and your relationship to viewers, particularly through this work.
I guess I wouldn't say that my work is about message. I don't have a particular message. As far as the things that I'm interested in my work have to do with time and memory and our history. And with this particular piece, it's from an old Polaroid taken in 1983 in Tijuana, Mexico. I was with my folks, and we had lunch, and we were walking down the sidewalk. I don't even remember really how it happened. I just found this old photograph, and it looks very turn of the century, sort of like ethnographical photography. And I was very drawn to the center figure, which was my mother. And I loved the way she's poised and the way she's holding herself. And when I decided to work with this, I took her and went with it. But as far as other ideas, this for me symbolizes this history of crossing back and forth, and it's sort of ironic because it's my parents who were born in Mexico. We've crossed over to Tijuana and we're going to have lunch. So we're kind of being tourists in our own country, and then we're going to cross back. So it was sort of that thing that I was fascinated with, and those ideas that a lot of my work is about. I was also thinking about statues, like Roman and Greek statues, and the way her leg is, and the more that I enlarged her leg, the more it looked like a column. And also I was thinking about Luis Buñuel, because he's very fascinated with like women's legs. If you see any of his films, there's all these shots of legs, and almost disembodied legs. And so I was thinking about Luis Buñuel as well. And the other thing mostly was wanting to go back to the kind of work that I do and my fascination with time. The title of the piece is 3:15 p.m. Tijuana, Mexico. I don't know, I just chose that time. I know it was Tijuana, Mexico, 1983. But I was thinking about just works of art that reference time, and I was thinking about Gail Cometti's sculpture called The Palace at 4 a.m., and it's sort of a surreal piece, and it's a sculpture. It's sort of looks like it's made with twigs, but it's referencing a particular time, and what happens when you reference a particular time. Does the viewer put themselves in there? Does it help you? I don't know, I've always been fascinated with that, and also I was thinking about a play, I think it was, I don't know if it was Blood Marriage, but Garcia Lorca, and he's talking about someone who died, and he says 3 in the afternoon, you know, and you know, he writes 3 in the afternoon, and it kind of makes you, yeah, it was 3 in the afternoon, and this happened, and so it's kind of the things that I think about when I'm working. I think it's, you know, having to do with my own memory, which I hadn't even remembered taking this picture, and there it appeared, and I was like, who is this person? And it was me, prepubescent me. But yeah, anyway, I could ramble.
Thank you, Patricia. Patricia's helped us think about, you know, how artists start, right? You know, there's a blank page or a canvas or whatever they're starting with. There's a beginning moment, and hers was an image. She actually brought it. You might want to ask her. Some of you might not want to see it because you're the kind that's interested in the work itself, not the what people call